I showered before this.
Me too.
Did you really?
I took a deep shower.
I didn't shower before this. Yeah. I did, however, take a man wipe or a dude wipe, if you will, and cleanse myself of all of my hotspot areas. This episode brought to you by
Subaru. But I didn't shower before this episode, but I had a shower thought, if that counts.
Okay.
So,
was it a clean shower thought or a dirty shower thought?
Can you have a shower thought if you're not in the shower?
That's up to y'all's discretion. So if a package of hot dogs is called a package of wieners.
Yes.
If you get a package of vegan hot dogs, is that a package of dildos?
Yes.
That's what I thought. As you were. This was our TED Talk.
Tasty edible dicks. Hey everybody, I'm Dane Holland, and I'm gonna be so very dead, like no one ever was.
I'm Austin Shazam Pfeiffer, and there's a big difference between inserts from Dr. Scholl's and inserts from Dr. Sue.
I'm Marcus, the wilderness warlock known as I'm Electric Man.
I'm Brian Ryan Whitakerland, also known as Tiny, and the dead do not poo.
But the grapes do. On the podcast Nerd It Through the Grapevine, where four best friends gather weekly to talk about our favorite parts of past, present, and future nerd culture. And the wait is over. Pokemon Arceus, I think that's how it's said, is officially out. The newest installment of the Pokemon game series, digital game series, not the card game series. But it's different. It's all new, mostly. And it's good. It's fun. I was very skeptical whenever they were first talking about it and first showing images of it and coming out with the trailers for the game. And it stuttered a lot in the trailers and stuff didn't load right. And it looked like something from a Wii game, possibly, maybe even lesser than. But it's good. Like, I saw enough, like, YouTubers, a lot of YouTubers, whenever they do video games and cover video games, if they're popular enough, they get early releases of some things because it honestly helped sales a lot for this game, because these people that viewers trust to cover games like this, who are very honest, by the way, like, they have ripped apart a bunch of Pokemon stuff before, but they got a hold of some early copies of this game, whether legally or not, and just almost across the board, it seemed like it was positive reviews of how this fresh take on Pokemon has changed the game. And the fresh take is the fact that it's an open world-ish Pokemon game, that it isn't just the linear, like, following the literal routes in Pokemon to the next village or the next whatever. You're in these open regions on this island, and it's back in time, so it's before the digital Pokeballs, and it's these physical Pokeballs that you can make out of these acorn-looking things. It's great. I want to get into the things that I like about it and the things I don't like about it, and I think I can probably pair the two together as I talk about it. So the first thing I do like about it is the fact that it's open world. Mostly. I say mostly because you can't see, the farthest mountain in the game and go to it. Like in, say, like Skyrim or whatever. Like, if you see a place, you can pretty much go there. It's not separated into different areas to where you need to go to some kind of like hub area to where you can gain access to certain places. It's all available to you. In Pokemon Arceus, there is this base, like, little town that you live in, and you go from there to choose which area on the map that you want to go visit. And the reason they've got it separated that way, at least in the game, is because the Pokemon can kill you in the game.
Yep.
Which, faint, they can make you faint, but I mean, come on, it's kill you and you're reincarnated in the same body minutes after. Like, but they
brutal.
Yeah, I know it's brutal. They will kill you.
That's I played the game along with you because we play tradesies.
Yes.
And it was I liked the part where there was actually a sense of danger involved with it and the open world aspect of it. It was almost like they were combining the Pokemon themes with the Elder Scrolls kind of themes.
Yeah.
Just because those are the only other kind of games I've ever been around, or like the Red Deads or something like that are more open world based, where you can go where you need to go and do what you need to do. And I'll get back with you on the other stuff here in a minute while you keep going.
I mean, I dated a Red Dead or two.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Did you get redemption?
Well,
That's
not
for another day.
really.
But okay, so a negative to go along with that positive is, okay, it is open world. There's no mini map. Like there's no little mini in all open world games that I know of, unless you turn the HUD off or choose to have the mini map off, because most open world like RPG style games, like you can choose like
What
to
is
have
that,
it on.
Morrowind? Because they didn't have a mini map either.
Morrowind didn't even have the
No.
option to have one on there?
No, it was like, go to this town. And you're like, where is it? And it's like, good luck.
They're like, it's north of here. You're like,
No, didn't even give you that much. It's
nothing.
like,
That's probably how Elden Ring's going
Find
to be
it.
too. They're not going to have like a mini map
there's
or
going to be
anything.
no mini map.
Jesus Christ!
cheesy crust.
It's
There
Jason
is a
Bourne.
map, but you have to find pieces of it to get the full map.
Well, that's different
Well,
than what
that's
you
kinda
said.
cool.
Literally,
But no,
10
but I'm thinking of a mini map as like,
Yeah.
think if you're going through a dungeon, it's like showing you the rooms of the dungeon.
Oh no! Wait. So you don't get
to
a
where
map
you can
at
like
all?
actually navigate the. I mean, no, you get in. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Like there's no because
I'm just saying the idea of a mini map on an open world. I mean, most of them have like a compass.
Yeah.
But I just never seen one that actually has like a mini map that shows you like where you need to go.
no, you have like route markers and stuff
Right.
along your way. Then you can set different markers on your big map, and it'll show up where you're needing to go direction wise on your mini map. At least down to directions. Like which direction should I travel, north, south, east, or west,
Right,
and which
right.
is that direction.
But in an open world setting, even a mini map is just, I mean, there's the option of looking at the larger one, and your mini one is just going to show your kind of general vicinity around you with like a compass, like showing
Right.
cardinal directions or whatever.
Gotcha.
In this game, you don't get that. You can access a map, and when you pull it up, like it takes up the whole screen. You kind of separated from the action of what you're doing, and it will show you as a little like red arrow, kind of where you're at in the direction you're pointed. But it's like it's not even necessary. Like the amount of times that I need to use the full map,
The Mickey map.
the Mickey map, it would not. Like I just want one that's about mouse sized in the bottom right of the TV for me to be able to see where I'm at. So that, I mean, technically small gripe, because it is a mini map, but. There aren't, and the reason that that's an issue with not having a mini map, there's not really anything in this open world that's any kind of like memorable piece of landscape. Like there's like maybe a couple spots, but there's a lot of times like you have that feeling of, oh, I've passed this tree twice now. I am going in a circle, or maybe you're not, and it's just another section that looks exactly like that place you just were. Sometimes you can kind of tell where you're at by what Pokemon are spawning. Because in this game, you can see them in the open world. They're just walking around.
Oh,
They don't pop out and surprise you.
Oh, they'll fuck you up.
Yes, absolutely.
Like
they
polio,
will. Like,
son.
Yeah,
Like
it'll be rough.
Like it'll go from like, oh, here's this little Bidoon or whatever, the little Bidoof. Like you got to capture 700 of these real quick, but then you're on your way. You're like, oh, this little river gets like shallow right here. I'm gonna walk along this shallow river part, just exploring the land. Level 75 Snorlax used Hyper Beam. And I'm laying in the hospital like, what just happened?
They will catch you off guard.
And there's no voices, so you got to give them
No.
your own voices. So you were almost killed by that. I'm just.
Is it like every other Pokemon game I've played? Because I played all of 2. I played, I want to say Shield and part of Pokemon. Part of Pocket Mango, and all I can find is rat titties. They're everywhere. Can't find any other Pocket Men except for some daggum rat titties. Is it like that?
I have not seen Rattata in this game.
Yeah,
so far.
that's what I said.
I know. I'm just reiterating so everyone else knows what you're talking about.
I
And
think he was speaking of Rattata in the plural, which is Rattities. Yeah, so if he just mispronounced
Right.
it. It's
Okay.
Ratities.
Right.
Ratities.
I didn't.
Sorry.
You were
We're
pretty
saying
close.
the same
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
basically.
Album.
We're saying exactly the same thing. I hear no difference.
Like a photo album. What do you say?
album.
Oh, well, okay.
So
Right, titties.
the positive of Pokemon being in the open world, seeing them where they're at, and being able to just throw a Pokeball at them if you want to. You don't even have to activate a battle with them. With your Pokemon, you can just sneak up, throw a Pokeball at them, and you might catch them. There's a lot of like bonuses you can get to catching them. Like if you sneak up behind them and you're hiding, you can throw the smoke bomb down to where you're hidden in this kind of haze. And you can throw berries, and like the Pokemon in the Pokedex have like a list of their favorite foods. If you've caught that Pokemon, you now have access to that information.
Or if you've harvested the foods, because the foods grow
Right.
on trees and you have to send your Pokemon up the trees to fetch the foods. It's pretty cool that way.
It is really cool that your Pokemon are helping you gather resources. And if you want, you can throw a Pokemon at a tree, turn around, and select another one just by pressing R or L to cycle through your Pokemon, and throw another one at a rock for it to gather some rock to make a different Pokeball or whatever. You can just be kind of throwing them out while you're running. You never even have to stop if you don't want to, if you got good enough aim.
So you throw your animal slaves at the objects
Yes.
that you want
Correct.
to harvest for crafting.
Correct. And the way they describe in this game how the Pokemon get into the Pokeball, they make sure to tell you this real early so that way the people, newcomers, really understand it.
Here we go.
The Pokemon can just get real small and they go into the ball.
They had Pokemon.
I'm glad they finally explained it.
A franchise with more money than God at this point, and they say, we're going to do a prequel to anything we've ever done just to make sure people get the mythological side of the Pokemon, because they were held in reverence as these creatures that were not non-known. They just knew they were dangerous. They had these powers. They had these abilities. And some of them even have, previous types of the same pocket men, as Tiny would say, that we know. Like my favorite was Typhlosion, because Cyndaquil is a starter.
you.
Yes, Cyndaquil is a starter Pokemon, and his final evolved form, Typhlosion, he is not only just a fire type, he's also a ghost type, because in the myth and the lore of Pokemon, his fire is a cleansing sacred fire that would transport the souls to the afterlife. So it adds a mythological point to it, and their chance to explain how Pokeballs work and Pokemon can go into them. They didn't put any magic to it. They didn't put any backstory to it. Their literal words were the Pokemon can shrink themselves to minuscule size. They'll have plenty of room in there. That's all you got!
So I have a question about Pocket Men.
Go
I've had
on.
this question for a long time, because you have like Pikachu, you got Rat Titties, you got Snorlax, all these, creatures that have these crazy abilities.
Yes.
How do you explain Mr. Mime? Is that just some dude that likes to be told what to do and spanked? Because it's just a sub just wandering around masquerading as a pocket man.
Tiny, to be honest with you, I think that you have made a connection in Pokemon unknowingly, because Mr. Mime does look like that, and his other human-style counterpart from the same series of Pokemon, Jinx, her trading card has her hand out almost like she's about to spank somebody.
So she's a dummy mommy.
She's a
Yes.
she's,
Oh,
a
100%.
she's a big-lipped dommy mommy,
Yeah.
and she's going to spank Mr. Mime. I'm
Then
glad
why have I not gotten into Pocket Men sooner?
because
I don't know,
it's
man.
just like love, man. People just don't give it a chance.
Yeah, it's true.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
So how is this Pokemon game gonna live up to its predecessor, the one that actually changed reality and caused people to literally just like lose their minds
You
in the
mean
real world?
Pokemon Go?
Yes. Is this one gonna change reality?
No game. I don't think any game in the history of ever is going to be able to accomplish that. And it's not that I don't have faith in technology. I just don't think that people can recreate what we found when we were doing Pokemon Go. We saw groups of people interacting and becoming apologetically close to everybody. And this was pre-COVID, and this was pre-quarantine, like social distance. This was, before there was worry, and you're not going to create that again with people being able to just be hundreds of people at a time going after these little small animals. playing in a augmented reality forum, just like all after the same goal, and people are like, guys, there's a Charizard over here, and everybody goes running, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, the Vin Diesel moment in Dane's car going after a Venusaur over on Jefferson Avenue, and we were all the way over next to Tennessee Tech.
Just missed it.
I'm talking like, it was fun to recreate the ability to feel those kind of things again and to cause that kind of global phenomenon. It is going to be a task that is on a tier like no other. I said all of that without needing a mouth smack, and I'm going to take a sip of this Blue Coast Burrito crack tea is what I call it. So if nobody has ever been to Blue Coast Burrito, I recommend go to Blue Coast Burrito, gets you some chips and a drink. You'll be fine. You'll know which one's the crack tea. It's not labeled crack tea, but it's the only thing that's swirling in the bin.
Brought to you by Subaru.
Brought to you by Subaru. So it will not change humanity the way that Pokemon Go did, but it will, I think, change the direction of the Pokemon series, the franchise. Yeah. I think, the next main title in the series may not follow this method, but they may take things from it. I think they're going to try now to go, okay, what does everyone love about this? What does everyone love about this?
Trying to reinvigorate it.
Smash them together, because Pokemon is also in this weird state of, it's a lot of money that they make from it, no matter what they put out. Like, they could put out trash and people will purchase it and love it because they're...
And it kind of becomes like a collector's item.
Yeah. Something like that. Like, it's just, they're to a point now that people don't want to miss out on a title, even though if they say, I'm never going to buy this new Pokemon game, they will. But I think because this game has so many sales, like it's gone off like with sales, and I thought it might have ended up being not necessarily a dud, but not as successful as it is right now, and that's because they did some things right. One final thing that I think they did wrong, again, like all other before it, is one of our favorite things about games, and that's the voice acting. There's no one. The Pokemon makes sounds. So they've recorded sounds that a Pokemon would make, but no character has actual voice dialogue.
What kind of sounds do the Pokemon make?
Yeah.
Like that.
And they don't actually say their names either like they have in the cartoons. They just make like they're roaring. And
most games, they don't have the actual like the cartoon. They've got just animal noises. But in this one, what is cool about the Pokemon, first off, fix it, Pokemon people. Like, give voice acting to the characters, please. It's ridiculous. But what is cool is in the game there are alpha Pokemon. So there's if there's Pikachu in this area, all of a sudden there's a really big Pikachu and his eyes are glowing red. And when you encounter him, his Pokemon noises that he makes are actually lower, because he is larger. So the sounds he makes are lower in tone.
Unless they hit you with a hyper beam out of nowhere.
Right, you never get to hear them.
And the only thing you see is the hyper beam where it hits you and the red eyes of the Snorlax that did so.
Right, exactly. So a lot of cool things about it. I say get it. If you've been bored of the Pokemon games before it, try this out. It's a lot of fun. A lot of people are going to be talking about it for a while, and hopefully it sets the tone for future titles to come to be even better.
Yeah, and I mean it's something that we've been looking forward to for a long time, and it's very current. It's up to date with what's happening, which we kind of dwell a lot in nostalgia, and these newer things coming out are really cool to look forward to as well. I can't wait till Elden Ring, and can't wait until we get the rings of the rings and the ring of the king and ring.
Oh, the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's other stuff that's been making news, and it's kind of like I feel like my phone's always listening, because if I hear anybody talking about stuff or I talk about stuff with people, I just miscellaneously stumble upon these things in my news feeds on the internet. But that's okay with me, because I stumble upon stuff. I was hearing a lot of people talking about, how there's this big, problem with the drug pricing right now and the markup on it and everything, and it's keeping it away from people. It's keeping healthcare away from people, and it's not really nerdy to know about that, but it's nerdy from the point of view of who's actually doing this, and it's one of the guys from Shark Tank who's opened an online pharmacy to lower drug prices. And he's also the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mr. Mark Cuban. In case you don't know which one he is, he's the one with the very oval-shaped face that is orange with a sharp point on the bottom end of it, no cleft. So it's
a very strong brow.
Oh, yeah.
Strong. Isn't he the one that makes the sandwiches?
Well, if you're talking about a Cuban sandwich, as if you know what a Cuban sandwich is and you've had it before, but if you're getting it confused with Reuben sandwich,
they're delicious
That's
too.
the only one I know. I've never had a Cuban.
Because
more delicious.
Because I don't think that he'd be the guy for a Russian dressing kind of deal.
Lame.
Yeah, he likes to take it slow. He doesn't want to be Russian.
he is really well put together. But some medicine that I use, just because of high blood pressure, it's lisinopril. In response to this already, though, I had to go pick up a prescription, and my prices on what I actually paid for my prescription already had dropped.
Really?
Yes, I think there was like a quick automatic response from the pharmaceutical. So I'm smacking
Pharmaceuticals. We need to open a pharmaceutical.
The pharmaceutical industry.
See how hard it is.
That's
Hold
a
on.
fake word.
Well, didn't Dwayne The Rock already beat us? Because in our obligatory meme channel, there's a bag of his farts.
Oh, that's right.
Ooh.
If that was real and not photoshopped.
That is from a pharmaceutical.
And does it have a penis-sized entry into the bag so it could be a Dwayne the Fart Johnson?
Are you saying that you want to insert your penis in it?
No, not me specifically. I just want people to have the option.
By people, he means himself.
Also, I noticed some medication on there for diabetes, and diabetes medicines are becoming outrageously priced for people to the point to where they're actually getting in trouble for going to Canada and paying cheaper prices for the medicine and then smuggling them back into America just because they're life-saving medications that they can no longer afford based off of insurance coverage no longer touching them. Unfortunately, the ones that are the most at risk, like insulin, were not featured in that list that he was able to put on there, but there are forms of the different diabetes medications that are the oral supplements that are available on there. So it's a step. It's not all the way there, but it's a step. His price range on there also was going to be a 5% overall less than what you get pharmaceutical markup wise. So that's why I feel that there was a change quickly, just because there was an automatic response to try to make sure he wasn't getting that business. Mm-hmm. And it got me kind of spurred into thinking about other stuff, and I was like, gosh. This is kind of a big deal, and these doctors and pharmacies and pharmacists, they're going to have to all respond to it in a specific kind of way, just because it's going to affect their clientele and their customers and everything else like that. And I got to thinking about other kind of doctors, and I kind of sidetracked really bad on my squirrel brain, because I ran into another doctor that I never knew was a doctor, because I was like, man, I wonder if that lady that used to tell me about sex on TV was a doctor, and she was. And her name was Dr. Sue Johansson.
Yes.
Nice.
She was ancient at the time of recording, and she's ancient still.
She's ancient-er.
Yes, she is.
Like, she was ancient at the time, but she's even ancient-er now.
Her sex knowledge might have kept her from aging, though.
She's 91
And
years
hot.
old. She's 91. Good God.
You got hot horn for a 91-year-old.
Hey,
Let's think back to whenever
things that woman can probably do, man.
Well, I mean, knowledgeable people are kind of sexy.
Knowledge is sexiness.
Especially when you're knowledgeable
Horn
about
Marcus now.
sex.
Horn Marcus now. He just admitted it. Sue's hot.
But it had nothing to do with her physical
Neither
appearance.
was what I was saying.
It was what's in her mind.
Her brain is what made me horny.
I want to learn about Dr. Sue.
but no, I had a Sophia moment. I said, picture this. Sparta, Tennessee, 1997. I'm falling asleep. I just got through watching wrestling on the TV. I go to sleep. I hear the Star Trek theme song. I know it's time for bed. Dun, 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 dun. So whenever you want to give proper oral satisfaction, Damn. Damn. Hold on a minute.
Yeah,
Something's
Daddy.
in my tea. Something's in my tea.
Yes, Daddy,
I think it is correct. What is it? The proper way to give oral stimulation is going to be by taking this and putting it into the tip of your. Wait, what a minute! I'm not supposed to be watching this. That's what I would wake up to when I realized that I needed to turn my TV off. Because imagine your parents walking in, and because as a kid you're looking at it like, oh, this is boob stuff. Oh, this is. I don't know if I should watch this. They'll get mad if I watch this.
That's what it looks like.
And looking at it now, as us, like imagine that I was my parent. How would I respond to that? I'd be like, damn, she's still doing this? Because she started on a radio show in the 1970s where she would actually take call-ins and help talk people through sexual education and sex advice, because back in the 70s, it was even more of a taboo topic than it is, considering that I saw her back in the 90s on the television. Like, it was such a taboo topic, and you just didn't want to speak about it openly unless you were like some bolstering braggart that was wanting to pump his chest and be like, oh, yeah, I banged X amount of chicks. Dr. Sue made it okay to accept who you were and understand this stuff, because sex therapy really hadn't grown much, but she was on the forefront of helping that grow. And due to her popularity in radio shows and syndicated broadcasts like that, and her episodes were not only played live and recorded on air, they were recorded and they were played again in continuous rotation, and they never really stopped. She then started recording in the 80s, the late 80s, the television show. And I can't, let me look up the name of it, because it's nothing crazy, but it's just worth remembering.
I believe it was Talk Sex with Sue.
It was Talk Sex with Sue. That's exactly what it was. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Don't look at me like that.
It was new episodes came out on Oxygen Channel even all the way up until 2008.
That's insane.
From the 80s to 2008. And honestly, too, I think that she taught a lot of people self-acceptance, and she taught a lot of people how to break through stuff, and she taught a lot of people how to cope with things in a healthy way, and helped a lot of people out. And in turn, it probably inspired a lot of people to do the same thing and to reach out and help others and to try to, guide them in the right direction. And if worst case scenario, they can't handle it anymore, just please seek further assistance. You need to talk to somebody.
She wanted to make sure people knew, like, you're not a bad, dirty person for wanting to know the answers to these questions. She's like, you should be asking these questions. But she knew that people don't have someone they trust to ask these things to. They don't want to go to their parents and ask it. So it's like, let's write into Sue or listen to the episode that night. Maybe your question will be answered, or some questions you didn't even know you had would be answered.
And it wasn't disrespectful either. Like, did it show Dr. Sue removing a condom with her teeth? Like, no, maybe. I actually can't tell you the truth about that because I haven't seen every episode.
Remember. Yeah.
But I'm sure it would be something. I don't think she ever did anything inappropriate like that.
But it was never like, hey, watch this.
It's like, I remember she had these like little wooden people figures that she would be like, okay, now you want to get the ultimate amount of penetration and satisfaction for your partner, and she would pose them in such a way to show you said position in a non-graphic format.
It's called the Kama Sutra.
Exactly. Whoa.
Yeah.
Do it. Yes.
Oh my heavens. That's true. Yeah. And I just think that it's really cool.
Caramel Sutra.
I don't was it
The pharmaceutical industry.
It makes me so happy.
Caramel Sutica?
Caramel Sutra.
Pharmaceutical industry.
Yes.
Pharmaceutical force. It keeps you in your seat and in your partner.
It's because the earth is spinning so quick.
Yeah.
And Dr. Sue's aging so slow.
Exactly.
And she is the center point at which our gravity operates. Once there is no Dr. Sue, there will be no gravity. Therefore, we will all be flying by the seat of our pants oddly enough, people are going to get aroused by that, and they're going to have somebody to ask questions to. Luckily, the grapes have answered relationship advice questions in the past.
Yes.
And
We will be the next Talk Sex with Sue, except it'll be like...
talk gapes with grapes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, now I have to title the episode that. That's upsetting.
I love that.
It happened organically.
Oh man.
Kind of like dildos.
Next.
Speaking of dildos... So, speaking of late night television shows, back, I'm just
Get it together.
So
You got it.
just utterly derailed right now. So there was a show that I watched growing up. It originally aired on April 18th, 1997 in Canada. It was a Canadian and German science fiction television series called Lexx. That's Lexx.
One
You
more, and we'd
nasties.
have a.
I know one more would be,
We'd
but
be
I mean
talking
there
gapes
was
about it.
I mean there was like some scantily clad ladies in it, which is what originally caught my eye. But the more you watch it, you're like, this is actually a pretty good show. Now, okay, it's not great. It is definitely a dated television show, but the great part about it is it was a science fiction show that didn't take itself too seriously. Like, if you think Next Generation is kind of stuffy and Lexx might be the show for you because it is not that. The first season consisted of 4 90-minute made-for-TV movies. And then after that, they became the standard, 45-minute format per episode.
So what you're looking at here is I'm going to give the audience a little bit of a description of the of what I see whenever I type in Lexx, Lexx, just as far as who I know the characters are in real life. They are actually Red Foreman. Red Foreman in space. It's actually Red Foreman in space, but he's actually a clone of Red Foreman. He is the 4th generation of clone of Red Foreman.
He's a clone of a clone.
Yeah, he's a clone of a clone. Okay. That explains the number 4 on his hat. Then you've got in the middle here. There's a female character. She's clearly she's 14 years old in the show, but she's actually 47 in real life, and she's trying her best to make it work. You've actually got what's his name? Zachary Quintos. It's Zachary Quintos when he was really into Dashboard Confessional. He's in here, and he's I'm sorry, I'm going to show you the picture, and you're going to laugh real hard. So
Okay. Yep.
and you've got the head of the 90s hit movie Star Kid. So they chopped Star Kid's head off, and they're holding it hostage. I'm guessing by the looks of it, the way she's holding her belt, she's got a gun.
She does not have a gun.
Oh.
Damn! How far did I miss?
Okay, I don't know who a Zachary Quinton is.
Zachary Quintos, he
I
played
don't know
Spock.
who that is
Is
either.
it Quintos or Quinto?
Zachary Quintos might be either. It could be a silent S that I
Quinto.
pronounce.
Well, he is kind of a Spockish-like character. See, your Red Foreman clone, his name is Stanley H. Tweedle. And more or less, he was a janitor for his divine shadow, which is the big bad guy of the universe. He's very cowardly. He's not like Red, like, oh, you dumbass. Da, 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 da. No, he's afraid of everything.
That's because that red clone never experienced the Korean War.
Exactly. And occasionally he grows a big set of nuts and decides to be brave, but within seconds reverts to his cowardly roots. The lady in the middle that you are referring to, her name is Zev Bellringer. Not to be confused with any other Zev Bellringers you may know. She was very overweight, hopelessly ugly, and was sold into like this place where you buy your wife. And the guy that bought her, she was like, no, I'm not going to marry you. So she gets thrown into this other thing where she's going to be a love slave. So they put her in this machine that makes her slim and fit and beautiful. Well, something happens to where she misses out on the brainwashing part, and there's this thing called a cluster lizard, which is just like this mean, nasty,
STD?
centipedal-like thing that'll just rip your guts out. Well, it kind of like, it rolls in there and gets in the machine, so her DNA gets fused with this cluster lizard. So she can just kind of like Hulk out, but she doesn't really change features. She just, it's like, gets like really strong and can like rip people apart.
Oh, so even though she has her DNA fused with that of a lizard, it never changed her physical appearance?
It did.
How did it change her physical
It
appearance?
made her small and skinny and hot.
No, I'm talking about the lizard.
Oh, the lizard? No, the lizard just disappeared.
She didn't get scales or anything?
So the
No.
only thing that she got from the lizard was the fact that she got
Her
extra
attitude.
extra strong and attitude
Because
adjustment.
everyone
pretty
knows
much.
lizards for their attitudes, not
Exactly.
the fact that their tails can
Well,
grow back if they're cut off.
This is a space lizard. It's a cluster lizard. It's
okay,
different.
you're right.
And so in doing all of that, when the brainwashing thing was about to happen, she rips the head off one of the robot guards and sticks it in the machine so it gets the love slave brain programming. And for whatever reason, she just takes the head with her. And it falls in love with her. And it knows a lot of things because it was connected to the central mainframe of his divine shadow. And the only person that robot head will interact with and give any information to is Zev. Until a season or two in, it gets like damaged, and then it falls in love with Kai, who was the guy with the giant beehive hairdo that you was talking about with the long Padawan style bang.
So she doesn't always look like that. And
Well,
she sometimes looks like this, and
Yes.
and this is a much more acceptable space main figure kind of take. I
Well,
think she
she-
doesn't look as much like a American Britney Spears pop star looking thing.
We'll see.
Wait, is this an adult sci-fi series?
Yes, it's not for children. A couple
says as he's-
seasons in,
I mean, like where they do it a lot,
there is some
like pirates?
doing it. Not
but
like pirates.
uncut. Okay.
No, you don't see any penetration. But at one point, Zev dies.
but what if someone gets stabbed?
They get stabbed a lot. But
Did
at
you
one
see
point,
penetration?
different kind of penetration.
Oh,
sir.
sorry.
No gentles. But at one point, Zev dies and is like cloned, and there's a different Zev. So it's a completely different actress at a certain point, but it's a quote unquote different character, even though all the mannerisms and everything's the same except for the name and the actress. But back to the emo beehive bouffant guy. His name is Kai. He is the last of his race. His race was the Brunin G.
Oh, I thought he was an emo.
They got wiped out like 6,000 years ago, and his divine shadow brought Kai back from the dead to become like his personal assassin. He's got a whole corps of assassins, but he wanted a Brunin G because they would have been the best assassins. And so that's where you get such great lines as "the dead do not poo," because they're always trying to get him to do things, and he's like, "The dead don't do this, the dead don't do that." Like at one point, this chick is trying to seduce him. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you so aroused," and he's like, "I've not been aroused for 6,000 years." And she's like, "That's really sad, but I'm gonna do it." And he's like, "The dead do not get aroused."
And then all of a sudden, he's like, "It's alive."
No, but he kills many people with his wrist scorpion whip armband shooter thing. I don't know what it is, and it makes like a eagle like kind of sound when it goes around and just eviscerates people.
Oh, I really wish that it actually sounded like a freaking screaming eagle. Just
It does. It does.
oh god!
I'm not making that up. It does.
We'll have to watch it here in a little
Sounds
while.
like your
Yes.
HHR out there in the
It
the
does,
parking lot.
except just one screaming eagle.
Singular, not
Singular.
screaming eagles.
But so you have this cast of just weird characters, and they steal a spaceship from his divine shadow. Not just any spaceship, the newest, biggest, greatest spaceship. It's an organic entity in and of itself.
The Hyundai Santa Fe,
Yes,
I love that idea.
Santa Cruz, the Hyundai Santa Cruz.
it's a big flying hollow bug, essentially.
Yeah.
And they get inside of it and they cruise around. And to be the pilot / captain of this, which Stanley Tweedle becomes the captain of the Lexx, it's like a bonding thing. So he's bonded with the ship. Like, it only listens and does what he wants. And they go wherever Stanley Tweedle wants to go. But Zeb can usually manipulate Stanley because, well, let's just face it, she's hot. And he's like, oh, she's hot, so obviously I got to do what she says. And so usually they go and do what she says. But anyway, so in one episode, Lexx is like, I'm tired of trying to do this with Stanley. He's disgusting. He's horrible. He's not attractive. He's ugly. But I need the key to the ship. So she basically has to give him the best sexual encounter he's ever had. But she blue balls the crap out of him and ends up getting the keys to the ship. He's like all tied to this thing, all space and electric-y, and she's doing stuff. Not really like having sex, but just like super teasing him. Gets him to this heightened state of arousal. And there's like a flash of light. And she's like, I got the keys to the Lexx now. I don't have to do gross things with you. And he's like, no. And one of my favorite episodes, this is how you know the show doesn't take itself too seriously. One entire episode, Stanley's looking for the bathroom in the Lexx. And it turns out the bathroom is this room that looks like a jungle. And there's like this upside down mushroom suction cup looking thing. That's the toilet. And he's standing there with Kai and he's looking at him. He's like, Kai, does this look like any kind of toilet you've ever seen? He's like, no. He's like, would you poo in that? He's like, the dead do not poo. You know? I mean, it's a hilarious, stupid, great show. And later on down the road, you get to this planet with no water. They kind of move around throughout the universe, different places. Star Trek style.
Would you call it campy?
Oh, yeah.
Very campy?
Yeah.
I mean, the robot...
I wouldn't say the campiest, but it's pretty campy.
I mean, the robot head alone looks like it's made out of, like, cut foam. Like, cut foam that's been painted.
Yeah, probably. It's, like, put on this little, like, RC car, so it drives around and follows whoever it happens to be in love with at the time.
Would this be worthy of a Discord watch-along?
Yes, but it's long.
We could just
long.
we could just watch
At least watch the
Oh,
first
we
one.
couldn't because
The
they
first
released
one
them.
is a 90-minute,
They were because
episode.
when they originally released them, they released them in
Mini movies.
4 made-for-TV movies of season 1. Season
That's
2
just so
starts
crazy.
with
I know.
45-minute shows.
They
And the
just
first
didn't do
season,
things
nah.
the same way back then.
You know,
No, it was wild.
if we want to do the first movie on Discord, that would be at least us following through with the idea of like, hey, watch this, we will too.
Yeah.
Besides the,
I mean, I'm down.
Besides Star Wars, because I didn't get to,
Yeah, I didn't get to either. It was Christmas.
Have you found Russian Lord of the Rings yet?
No, but we're working on it.
Heard. So I watched a show on Showtime, of all places. I wasn't aware. I'm not saying there isn't any, but I wasn't aware there were that many good stuff on Showtime. But recently, I found this show called Yellow Jackets. A lot of people have been talking about it. It's been creating somewhat of a buzz lately. And that was for you all. I'm starting to itch already.
fucking puns. You hate them.
Yeah, I know. That was a freebie. You can have that one. You're welcome. So my friend Zach told me, oh, you should watch Yellow Jackets. It sounds like it's like kind of like Lost. I was like, okay, I'm already a fan. I don't want to compare the show too hardcore to Lost because it is its own show, absolutely. But it kind of takes that format of crash cool characters on an island or out in the wilderness in this case, make mysterious things happen to them, but at the same time you're telling the story of these characters who are going through internal struggles and flashing back to different parts of their life too. So like the kind of even the flashback setup is kind of a thing in Yellow Jackets as well. So
The flashbackiness of this is probably a lot easier to follow than something like a show like The Witcher Season 1, where the characters look the same age. So the flashbacks, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait, this is a flashback. But this is like, it's obvious when these flashes take place.
Oh, yeah. Well, because the characters are double casted. So they're cast as older women and younger women.
Cool.
So it's a high school soccer team that makes it to nationals. Their team name's the Yellow Jackets, and they get on a plane to fly to nationals, and it crashes out in the middle of the wilderness. And we follow the story after they have already made it, or at least some of them have made it back to reality and grown up and had families. So basically we're seeing them as older women look back on this traumatic event in their life, because apparently they were out there for like 19 months or something like that. And, obviously the plane crashes. There's trauma in that where a lot of people died in the initial crash. But yeah, I've lost exactly where I was going.
Well, the thing is that I'm noticing from the pictures too, which I hate that they've done this, because a person like me who's never seen it doesn't need to know who has lived and who has died. But they've literally got posted from the show, from Deadline, the pictures of their older counterparts and their younger counterparts standing right next to each other, and then you've got this ragtag group of people on the side that are going to be, the characters that didn't make it.
Here's the thing. There's a lot they're not showing us too. It's only one season. It looks that like they're kind of planning for maybe a 3-4. I don't know. I've not heard anything about it, but a 3-4 season arc, which I think would be cool. Because first when I read about it before I watched it, it said dark comedy, supernatural horror, and I was like, okay, I'm totally into that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not the most overly comedic thing. Because there is a lot of serious and like kind of scary, unsettling things going on. Like at one point after they've crashed, the first episode kind of sets up this friendship between Shauna and Jackie, and they're like best friends, but without giving too much away, there's something going on in their lives that by the time they get out to the wilderness is going to like basically drive them apart once it all comes to light. Very much a high school kind of drama, but it's not like that. Like, it's not like superficial, because we're looking back at it from the adult perspective, I guess, in a way.
So it's a like a fade out narrator kind of thing, to where their future selves they're telling this story, but it's like their narration's fading out into what actually occurred.
Not really. So in modern day, we'll just take Shauna, for example, because she's almost kind of like the first character you get introduced to. She's almost maybe somewhat of the main character. So Shauna, she's married the guy she was seeing in high school. She's survived this 19 months out in the wilderness, and it's like this media thing where all these people want to know what really happened to these girls out there, but none of them have like told the story. And like they're being approached by these reporters, being offered book deals, but none of them will say anything about what happened to them.
Oh.
But then they start getting blackmailed. And so really it's not like a narration. It's like you see some scenes of them as adults, and then you'll just, they intercut things that happened out in the wilderness.
They're just showing you why they don't want to tell the story.
They're showing you what happened out there and why they are so adamant on keeping this all a secret.
That's cool.
So how the adult portion is how much later than the stuck in the woods
I think 25 years.
Okay, so it's been a long period of time.
Yes, 25 years later.
Gotcha.
So they're also saying in this little article I've read here from Vox that Pretty Little Liars is compared a lot to Yellow Jackets as well, by the same kind of theme that they're using for the missing alpha trope, is what they're saying. Like such and such is missing, and she's like, let's see, like in Pretty Little Liars, like Allison is missing, and the whole idea is like going back and forth like over like why is this person gone from this situation?
Yeah, I can see that, because Jackie, Shauna's best friend,
that's exactly who she mentioned,
never made it back, and that makes that clear from the get-go. She never made it back from the woods, and so she's kind of Miss Popular. She's like that girl, She's the one that everybody wants to be kind of like, except by now they're all kind of getting towards the tail end of high school, and sometimes some of them are kind of over her bullshit, kind of, honestly.
And some of us never got any tail end in high school.
Exactly.
Well, I feel sorry for you.
Did she get it?
What?
Did she get it?
I'm afraid to answer this question.
Did she get eaten?
Oh,
Cannibalism.
well,
I don't know why
the
I
very
sang
first
that.
episode shows some very disturbing images. I mean, the very first episode's kind of trying to set the stage for you. You know, so you see Shauna in her daily life. You know that there's secrets. People are approaching these characters for the story. Like, what really happened out there to you guys? You know. But then they start getting blackmailed, and so they all have to kind of get together to decide, like, what are we going to do? Like 25 years later, and start to figure out like who's blackmailing them and stuff. And but they don't show you too much of the wilderness in that episode because they haven't actually crashed yet. But what they did show is like this ritualistic, like hunting session where like the girls have they turned on they began hunting their
Like
own
Lord of the Flies style.
kind of, but even more barbaric in the sense of like they were literally pick the weak ones and hunt one of them. But we didn't see who was involved in that because they were all masked, because by this point it's winter and they've all got furs all over them. And it shows them like cooking what is definitely you're supposed to wonder is human meat and consuming it. So yeah, I mean, it leads you down this path of like, okay, so some really crazy happens out there.
Yeah.
Well,
And
human meat.
so far in the first season, definitely. But I like how they've kind of injected this magical horror. Like there is kind of magical, maybe even like prophetic visions and things like there. It's not overt, but it's all just kind of hinted at. And I really like how they've done it so far. And it's scary. It actually is kind of scary.
Well, human meat is supposed to look and taste a lot like porcine. So, did the meat look like pork to you?
Oh, you know, that was the first episode. I've seen like 9 since then.
Well, I'm going to have to watch it, and I'll report back to you whether or not it looks like pork.
I think you all would really like it. I mean, Dane, you're not the biggest on horror, but there's enough drama there. And some of the horror is kind of played for laughs sometimes. Like,
spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
In the initial plane crash, there's this one girl, and they can't get her unstrapped, and she's about to get caught on fire. And so they're like, we just got to leave her, Jackie. We just got to go. And so they run, but then they like find her later, and she's like, really, guys? Y'all were just going to let me burn to death? And then later, like several episodes later, she like kind of gets attacked by these wolves, and they think she's dead, and so they start to burn her body. But then she wakes up, and she's like, "Are you actually serious right now?" Like,
That's great.
That's awesome.
I can imagine that kind of emotional trauma, like, and that physical trauma taking a toll on her. And I can see her later on eating something, and like she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at this point, like teeter tottering back and forth, and she's biting into this big hunk of meat she's eating. She says, "No mistake, this ain't no steak."
but no, I will say by the time season 1 ends, like basically at the very beginning when they show that kind of cannibalistic ritual, seemingly, we haven't gotten to that part in the show. So they're showing us like what eventually becomes of them, I guess. But we just haven't seen how it's gotten to that point yet.
See, that's cool. The description of them all in like their hoods, like masks and stuff like that, and doing all the ritual, like that's got me to where I want to see. Cause see, now I'm already interested in how they get there. Like, how do you get to that point?
Well,
after
I will say in that scene there is a seemingly like this leader almost of the ritual, and she's got these antlers on her as a headdress, and there's like some earrings hung on the antlers. Oh, and so I've at least seen them like start to create like these, because you know they're out there, they're bored. So what do? They find berries, they make alcohol, they have a little homecoming, you know, but they call it their doom coming.
Craft night. We're gonna make crafts. We're gonna have mass.
Yeah, and so they play a lot of that. They play a lot of that stuff really like realistically. I think like, what would it be like if all these high school soccer, they're already kind of close, they're already a team, you know, and so like I don't know, it's charming in that way.
I mean,
too.
that is an interesting concept, because unlike Lost, you know, I think I'm not spoiling the end of that for people that haven't seen it, where they're all dead anyway. But
that's actually not the ending. But go ahead.
Yeah, they're all dead anyway.
No, that's not what happened.
So what happened was
we can argue about it right now because this is my topic. So
they all died anyway.
If you want to claim that, you're gonna have to back it up with evidence.
I can't. I'm in a
exactly.
seat. I'm all the way against the edge of it.
Your argument's invalid.
In Yellow Jackets, though, just from the description of it, I would love to see the journey of how they got to where that is, and also showing how they got to normalcy, if that was a possibility. Because if you think about it, if your life is so derailed and your survival depends on your sanity being produced into your own sociological structure that you've made, that, like, how do you bounce back from that if you are saved?
Well, they don't really. That's another cool thing is like Shauna, she's like this mom, and she's married, and she, is kind of. I mean, I don't know what her occupation is, but she kind of very much seems like a housewife, kind of in the show. But then she has this rabbits are keep eating her garden stuff, and she gets mad. And so what does she do? She just runs out there and skins the daggum thing, and then eats it for dinner that night. So she just cooks it, just right out of her garden.
That's
So it's like stuff
That's
like
really
that.
cool.
They still. It's almost like they brought a piece of it back with them.
I'd love to see.
Did she bring her mask with her?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know
See,
yet.
I'd like to see the antlers like up on like someone's like wall in their living room or something.
Well,
That'd be cool.
Like you said earlier, you see all this other cast of characters who don't have adults cast as their survived self. I think they're hiding some of them. Some of them haven't come to light yet. Some of them, I suspect, because it just makes sense, have survived but are just not a part of the story quite yet.
I'd love to see one of them.
I mean, think about it. They're being blackmailed, and there's like these witchy symbols that keep showing up that they saw out in the wilderness on the emails and on the letters. So it's like somebody who's blackmailing them knows what happened. But how do they know?
I'd love to see like one of them's kid be like in their like javelin throwing contest or something like that, like training for some kind of sporting event like that, and then all of a sudden they step up and just like throw a bomb, just like, oh my god, how'd they learn to do that? And it shows their parents like learning to kill and throw a spear and all this other stuff that they've had to make themselves. So they've learned all of this and they just know it by heart, and nobody's going to give you that kind of training except for me, son. That's sorry.
No, I get it. But no, I mean, I don't know what else to say without spoiling too much. But I definitely think it's a fun watch, like for people like us who are kind of into magic and the nerdy. And I kind of like. I don't typically like horror, but if you throw in some comedy, and it's actually kind of scary. Like, it actually is kind of scary, not in a jump scary kind of way. Like, there's just things that are happening that are
Creepy.
kind of terrifying.
Oh, like a thriller,
Yeah.
like a mood thing, as opposed to like a.
Well, I don't know, like maybe even like possessions, and I mean, like there's some weird stuff going on out in the wilderness. But and it's I just don't imagine how they're gonna like come to terms with what. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, and plus I just don't know.
Yeah,
but it's a really good show for guys and gals to watch together or just by yourself. I don't know. It's really good.
It's already, the idea of it is already catching me more than the idea of Lost, even though I gave Lost a chance. Like I tried, and I think it was just dated for me since
it
I
is a bit
hadn't watched it then. But this sounds
I still love
more
it.
right.
Same.
And I probably would if I gave it a chance and got through, for the second season, But
well, and plus just the characters and their inner relationships is also like, even if you're not much into the magic and the stuff, just like, oh my gosh, this girl's best friend is about to have to tell her this out in the wilderness, or like maybe even medical care is going to be needed.
well, yeah.
And they don't have access to it. Like some of them may even be having like growing little babies inside of them and things like.
Because there's a lot of people are not aware of this. Condoms don't grow on trees.
They
don't glow on them either.
Well, actually, if you get a glow in the dark one and you get through with it and you're in the woods when you use it and you throw it into the tree, it will actually glow on the tree.
Well, I mean, you could possibly get a piece of intestines and like tie a balloon knot in the end. I'm not saying that it's as effective as like a mass-produced FDA approved one, but you could possibly try it.
Is this what our gaping with the grapes is going to be like?
Possibly.
How to be sexually positive and safe if you're trapped in the wilderness.
How to be sexually positive and STI negative.
In the wilderness.
In the wilderness.
If you're ever left in a life and death situation.
We'll be like dirty MacGyvers.
The last thing you need is a baby to take care of out there in them woods. So make sure you find a squirrel and you take the half of its intestines and you blow it up real big like a balloon 5 or 6 times to stretch them out.
Oh, but
Some
that baby
deer
meat
skin
might be
condoms.
tender.
Afterwards, you can use the remnants for beef jerky.
Is that how lambskin became a brand?
Oh, I don't know.
Lambskin's a brand?
Condoms.
Condom brand, yeah.
Oh,
We should ask Dr. Sue, but I don't
We
really
should.
want to bother her.
yeah.
I'm gonna Google her number right now.
Get him out of there.
Well, while Tiny's looking up Dr. Sue, I just want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of the podcast on Spotify and iTunes and Podchaser. Castbox.
Castbox.
Hey,
You got there.
got it, baby. We're also on Audible. So if you're on Audible listening to audiobooks, like switch on over to the boys, the Grapes. Give us a listen on there. We've got all of our episodes, all the descriptions and stuff on iTunes and Spotify. Actually, in Audible too, there's a rating system where you can leave your 5 stars, no less. If you don't want, that'd be really cool. And tell people what you think about us and what the show is like to you. And you can even rate it 5 stars and say what you don't like, because we'll still read that too if you want. And then there is also a link in the description of this episode, a link to Teespring. So where you can go in there and you can wear us on your body anytime you would like, with our logo or our names or a hot stinking fecal garbage trash can. Like it's neat stuff.
And if you have purchased the dildos in the pack from Walmart and you've choked on one, you are entitled for compensation.
Yes.
So if you feel like talking about that and finding out the proper way of getting your compensation, I would get on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook and look up @NerdGrapevine. We can discuss how to get there further. And if you wanted to donate a little bit to the cause here at Nerd It Through the Grapevine, you can get on Patreon @BestFriends, Tiny Ink, and donate a little bit and get a Nerd It Through the Grapevine sticker and be able to unlock future content that we're going to have on there that is part of the live, uncut, and uncensored parts you don't get to hear on the air.
Like talking gapes with grapes.
Yeah. Oh, and, just make sure that if you're ever talking gapes with grapes, your mom doesn't walk into the room, because then that might cause you to have a little bit of family.
Emotional distress. Because you don't need to have your mom walking in on you when you're watching something weird with the sock and the lotion and the Kleenex and all that. It's a horrible time. But find us on Discord. Don't tell us about that if you have had that happen. We do not want to hear it. That's gross. You're not a terrible person. It's a thing that happens to people. I'm not going to say everybody, but find us on Discord. Join the Backyard Bonanza. We've got a meme channel. We've got a Malcolm Head channel. You can talk to us live, uncut, and uncensored. It's a great time. Sometimes we even stream movies. We might stream the first episode of Lexx to just wet y'all's whistle just a little bit.
So, Dane,
Go on.
when life gives you grapes,
When life gives me grapes, I'm going to stuff so many of them into an airplane that we are on that it crashes into a mystical, magical forest to where all we have to consume are grapes and each other. And I am the weakest of the 4 of us, so I'm a little worried about my decision on what to do with the grapes.
Luckily, the forest that we landed in was made out of peanut butter, and we're actually in Keebler Elf World.
Oh, fantastic.
So now we got to do is break off the trees, but then we run out of trees because we forget how snacky Marcus and myself get. So once we've already broke off all the pieces of the trees, we're just left with the jelly that's from the crushed grapes that were inside of the plane.
And the peanut butter.
And the peanut butter.
And me.
That's ran dry. Now what do? We eat the elves first.
Then the centaurs come out because this is their holy forest. And since they have 6 appendages, they are technically insects. So they'll fly around in crazy patterns and dive bomb us.